I would like to start a new political party in the United States. Maybe call it the Jobs Party. We wouldn't be concerned with social issues. We'd be concerned with getting manufacturing jobs back into the United States. Now, in order to do this, we're going to have to compete on a cost basis. And so you have to think about it. The manufacturing techniques that are used throughout the world are pretty consistent. Anything they can do in China, we can do here with machinery and that sort of thing. In fact, we might be able to beat that. But I don't want to hang my hat on that. I also don't want to reduce wages. That's the clean shot for most politicians. Well, the wages are too high. That's crap. We can do it and pay a decent wage. And the third is we're going to save a little transportation because we're closer to our market, which is the United States, still the biggest market in the world. So I'm thinking there's a fourth way, which is the way I always talk up, which is changing the way we tax. If we could tax in a manufacturing environment differently than we do now, we could probably save very close to 40% of our costs. But it's going to be tricky to do, and we're going to need a lot of cooperation from a lot of different people. And then what we do is we charge a huge tax on the end of the process to make up for what we didn't pay during the process. Let me explain what I mean. Right now, when you make something in the United States, say a cell phone, if you were to, none of them are, you would pay taxes on absolutely everything at every level. And those taxes compound against one another to end up costing the product, in other words, raising the cost of the product higher than the actual tax paid. That's the kind of taxation system we have in this country. In other words, if it costs you $30 to make this, you've probably got $12, $14 worth of taxes in here. Were those taxes actually paid? No. They were charged, but not fully paid. And the way to do, I don't want to get into the weeds and the accounting on this, but essentially, if we could take the taxes out of this product totally, make it in the United States, and then add the taxes on at the end in one lump, the government would get the same amount of money, but the amount of impact on the cost of this item would be dramatically lower. Plus, if we were going to export this item, we could do it with no taxes added. Now remember, let's talk about a single man or a single woman for a minute. Right now, he or she is not working. She's sitting home, he's sitting home. They're collecting unemployment, or they're collecting welfare or food stamps, rent subsistence, all sorts of goodies. I don't say they don't deserve them. But if I can put this man back to work on a neutral basis, in other words, he pays his own way, I save you and me and any other taxpayer an awful lot of money. And indirectly, the federal government, the state government, and the local government, an awful lot of money. Not only that, this gentleman or lady's mental health is vastly improved by the fact that she's working rather than sitting home. You see, when you have welfare, the politicians seem to think that that's a wonderful thing. But there's no hope in welfare. Welfare is saying to you, there's no hope. Every day, just go down and get your check, and go over here and get your rent subsistence, and over here get your food, and then go home. There's no hope for you. A job says there's the potential for improvement. There's the potential for advancement. There's the potential for doing something else. It gets you out of the house in a healthy way. A job is so important. It transcends money. So let's get back to this. If we could bring jobs back to the United States by adjusting the way we collect our taxes, and again, I repeat, the government gets the same amount. I'm not here as a defender or obstructor of the government. I'm here to say this is a different way of doing things that would allow us to bring some jobs, some manufacturing jobs, back into the United States. So let's roll up our sleeves for a minute and let me see if I can explain this, that it makes sense. Let's say we were going to make this in the United States. Well, we've got to buy raw material. The raw material is overpriced in the United States because of the taxes paid making the raw material. When you make aluminum, you pay huge taxes on everything, electric, on the men that are working for you, all sorts of things. So as a result, I overpay for my aluminum that I make the body of this thing. Likewise for the plastic, likewise for the electronics. So to make it in the United States, I'm going to have to take it out of the what? The worker, because all those taxes have been paid. But what's worse is for every dollar of tax actually paid, the cost of this item is raised like $1.60 or $1.80 because of compounding. All right? What is compounding? Well, that's when you put $1 in the bank and at the end of the year you get $1.05. Well, one time you could do that. That's compounding. And the next year you get not only your dollar, not only the 5, but also the interest on the dollar and the 5. So now you get even more interest. It may not seem like much when you're talking about $1, but play that game with $1 million and you could live off the compounding very nicely. The point I think I'm making is our tax system is set up piecemeal over the years since World War II chiefly. Actually, since World War I. And because of that, nobody thought, well, wait a minute, if we pay taxes at this stage of manufacturing, it's going to appear that we paid more at this stage. So that when we keep doing that, by the time we get to the end, it's going to appear we've paid a lot more taxes than we actually did. So this item's cost is going to be inflated well beyond what it really cost. So I'm proposing a whole new thing. The guy that would be making this under this program would pay less for electricity than the rest of us, because his electricity would not include any of the cost to make the electricity. I mean, any of the taxes to make the electricity. Likewise, when he buys his aluminum, he buys it tax-free, which means the aluminum company is going to have to figure out, geez, how much of this aluminum cost? You know, I get $12 a pound for my aluminum. How much of it is taxes? Well, gee, if we could eliminate all the taxes, we might be able to sell our aluminum for $8 a pound. Then this product becomes a finished product. And let's say it's $10, tax-free, $10. That's what we want. Well, now today this item would say, let's say, sell for $30. And normally the cost, because of taxes, would be something like $18. So it would really cost $18 and sell for $30. Okay? So, recapping. This item would cost $10 to make naked, $4 with the true amount of taxes paid, but almost $18 because of the effect of the way we pay those taxes, and it would sell for $30. Under the new way, it would cost $10. There'd be a $4 tax added to the other end, only now it could sell for $30 with more profit for the manufacturer, or the government could decide to take a little bigger slice and cut into that increased profit, or the price could be reduced to $25, $26. Export could be the same thing. If we sold it export with a very low tax, then we create more employment at home. And more employment at home means there's more churn in our economy, which is totally desirable. This concept is kind of hard to get your mind wrapped around. You got to have a little time with this to get to understand it. But if you do, you can see that we can bring stuff back to the United States, make it tax-free, totally tax-free, and then make the decision on the end of the tax how much we want to add back in for the government and how much we want to add back in for export. So how many jobs can we bring back? How fast can we do it? Here's the answer to that. I haven't done enough research to tell you in gross numbers how many jobs we could bring back to the United States. But this I can tell you. If we took a state and we brought some companies back and we began making some products and we began looking at this very seriously, it wouldn't be long before people and politicians would glam onto this and be telling you millions of jobs could come back. And remember what I said a few minutes ago. The guy who's working but covering their own expenses, that alone could justify it in terms of the savings to the rest of us who pay taxes to support people. I think this is really worth looking at, and I think this is really worth discussing. It certainly beats the arguments we're having now in the government. Thank you.